Welcome to the Better Together Here podcast with your hosts Devin
and Ashley,
helping you make the most of your time in New York City.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Better Together Here podcast. My name is Devin.
And my name is Ashley.
And in today's episode, we are going to tell you 5 fun things to do in Dumbo, which is a neighborhood in Brooklyn that everybody should check out. So let's get right into it. First off, you hear the word Dumbo. Besides thinking about the Disney movie, you're probably confused as to what Dumbo is or means. It's a neighborhood. It has been known by many other names historically, but as of the last 20 to 30 years, it has been known as Dumbo. And you might be wondering, what does Dumbo mean? Or is it just a weird word? It actually stands for Down Under Manhattan Bridge Overpass.
I was today years old when I learned that. No clue. But the more you know.
The more you know. A lot of neighborhoods in New York are actually acronyms or shortened versions, like Soho is south of Houston, right? Dumbo, Down Under Manhattan Bridge Overpass.
Soho is south of Houston.
South of Houston.
I didn't know that either.
We're all learning new things today. And rumor or the internet says that Dumbo was actually coined in the 90s by some like local artists and people who lived there to make the neighborhood sound less desirable to developers because they were trying to ultimately avoid what has now happened, which is it has become extremely gentrified and everything is very expensive and it has kind of become unattainable for a lot of people in New York City. So that's just like brief background. As for where Dumbo is, so it is, again, a neighborhood in Brooklyn. It has 2 main sections. One is between the Manhattan and Brooklyn bridges, which is kind of the more iconic part of what you're kind of used to seeing. And then another extends eastward from the Manhattan Bridge into the Vinegar Hill area. So it's not the largest neighborhood, but it is an awesome spot. You've probably seen pictures. You've got the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge. There's some iconic views. There's cobblestone streets. There's waterfront. It really is a beautiful area. And there is a lot of things to do there. And we're going to give you 5, starting with getting to Dumbo. So there's 2 routes, right? You could take the subway from wherever you are. For example, if you're in Manhattan, you can take the subway into Brooklyn and then just walk to the Dumbo area. Or you can walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to get to Dumbo from Manhattan.
Walking across the Brooklyn Bridge is a really fun way to get your steps in, a great way to see the city from a different angle. I would probably plan on like 45 minutes to an hour to walk the whole bridge. Like it is a walk / I wouldn't call it a hike, but it's a lengthy walk. So.
And as a bridge, so you get the vertical incline as you're going, just naturally how bridges are. So it's not the lightest of walks.
And fair warning, there are a lot of little like trinket shops. I wouldn't say like tourist traps, but there's a lot of like gimmicky stuff that...
They're tourist traps.
Yeah.
You can call a spade a spade. They're tourist traps.
Yeah, they have a lot of the like stand on this platform and have the iPhone do a 360 around. In my opinion, those are kind of annoying. Like maybe it's cool for like a second, but when there's 30 of them in a row and they're all blasting Empire State of Mind, gets a little old. So just pack your patience pills that day.
And if you can, go on a weekday, not a weekend. And if you must go on a weekend, if that's the only time you have, try to go really early in the morning or kind of just at like a random time. If you could go even during dinner time. So if you were doing it at around maybe 5 o'clock when most people have done that activity and then gone to do other things, just trying to find the off-peak times, but be warned that if it's a holiday or it's a weekend, the bridge is going to be very, very crowded, especially if you're coming from Manhattan. That first, I would say, 500 to 1,000 yards, extremely, extremely crowded. And then once you get through that, you get a lot of people who just turn around and don't walk the full length. So it actually gets clearer the further you go towards Brooklyn. And, of course, iconic pictures, great views of the financial district and all parts of Manhattan and Brooklyn, so definitely worth doing, and that will get you into Dumbo. And one part of Dumbo is the Brooklyn Bridge Park. There's a lot of different little parks in that area, but the Brooklyn Bridge Park is kind of a general part that we're going to talk about a little bit later. We're going to take a quick break to remind you to sign up for the Better Together Here newsletter. We email once a week with important things that you want to know about New York City, the best places to eat, the best things to see, the best ways to get around, all the things that you want to know once a week. So go to bettertogetherhere.com/newsletter and sign up today. When you come across the bridge, you might be a little bit hungry, looking for some food. One of the best places in Dumbo to go and eat and have a variety of options is the Timeout Market. So Timeout is actually a media content company. You've potentially seen some of their articles. They kind of do deep dives into different cities, similar to what we do here, obviously to a much higher degree, but they do it for all kinds of cities throughout the world. A very well-run media company, and they have started these local event and market type places in a couple different spots around the world, including the one in Dumbo.
Timeout Market is an awesome spot to go if you're looking for like a good spot for food, like Devin said. They have a lot of like New York City chains that have little small restaurants or booths in this market. So if you wanted to go to Jacob's Pickles, which is a very famous Upper West Side restaurant, but you happen to be in Brooklyn or you're going to do Brooklyn that day, you could go get a Jacob's Pickles meal in the Timeout Market.
And like Ashley was saying, there are, I believe, dozens of food options. There is a bar. There is a 5th floor rooftop. There's a ton of space. There's a few little shops as well outside of just food places. But I would say Timeout Market is food focused. Shopping is much more secondary. What's very nice is you can grab food in the market, take it out, and sit by the water. There's benches, there's picnic areas, there's stair seating, like I mentioned. There is a rooftop as well. So it's a really great option to come and explore. And we've talked about it before on the podcast. If you're with a group, even if you're just with 2 or more people, being able to go to a market, one person gets some Italian food, another person gets Jacob's Pickles. You can come back, share it, try a little bit of everything.
Another thing that we've talked about on the podcast before is that like food halls in general are a great spot to go if you're traveling with kids, because there's tons of different options and you can grab food and then, like Devin said, go outside and have a little bit more space to eat it. You're not within the confines of like a tight New York City restaurant. You can get food and then take it outside. Kids can run around, all that good stuff.
And the Timeout Market has a few bars, but they're not the greatest bars ever. They're pretty simple. So if after you eat at Timeout Market, you're looking to try a really nice beer, specifically a local beer, you can go to Evil Twin Brewing's tap room, which is pretty close to Timeout Market. Evil Twin is a local New York City brewing company. They brew really delicious craft beers of all walks and varieties. Their flagship brewery is in Ridgewood in Brooklyn, but their Dumbo location also has almost 20 different beers on tap. It's a nice kind of open style area where everyone's kind of congregating around like a semicircular bar. So there's a lot of space to drink. They have a lot of different beers rotating from time to time. And I've enjoyed all the Evil Twin Brewing beers that I've had before.
Yeah, I really like the layout of this place. Like it's almost has like a warehouse style design. Lots of good natural light, lots of good places to sit. It's a great spot to have a beer after walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, or like Devin said, getting some food at the Timeout Market.
And depending on the season, they will have outdoor seating as well, so you can enjoy the nice weather and sip on a nice beer. And that leads us to this episode's You'll Have to Check It Out segment.
The next stop is
Barge music. So barge music is something that my sister found and bought tickets for us to go to, and it was an amazing experience. Barge music has been around since 1977. Like the name insinuates, it is on a barge, so on an old ship that is no longer moving. It's not the biggest ship, but it's an old ship that I believe has been there since the late 1800s, now decommissioned, and now they do concerts on this ship, and they're classical style concerts. When we went, it was a violinist and a pianist.
A very world-renowned, decorated pianist and violinist.
His name is Mark Peskanoff, and he is Barge Music's artistic director. And I don't have time to read all his accolades because there are so many, but he has performed for decades all over the world with the likes of Yo-Yo Ma, Isaac Stern, and many other world-famous artists. He helped open a concert hall in Tokyo. He was there for the initial opening of one of the venues inside of Carnegie Hall. Like, he is a world-renowned musician, maybe not a household name if you're not super into classical music and those types of things, but man, was he talented.
Super talented. And it was a very cool venue to witness somebody that's so just genuinely has really mastered their craft. I think it was just such a cool and unique venue to be able to witness people that have really mastered their craft. It's a very small and intimate space. I'd say maybe 100 people max.
And when we were there, it was 25.
Yeah, very, very small crowd, but the caliber of the music was absolutely phenomenal.
And they played 3 full sonatas. Is that what they're called?
I don't know what they're called.
I don't know much about classical music. They played 3 full symphonies, right? Isn't that what they're called?
Probably. We're clearly very into classical music, but even as people that are not super into classical music, we genuinely enjoyed it. And I would say it was maybe 45 minutes long, 45 minutes to an hour. So it was on the shorter side. So again, if you're not super into classical music and don't know it super well and want to be able to try it out in a unique setting, I would highly recommend this.
The one thing to be aware of, and I would say a downside, is you are on a boat that is just sitting docked. It's not the biggest boat, and there are ferries and boats going by that are pushing up waves. And so if you have any issues with getting seasick or motion sickness, this would not be a good option for you. But outside of that, a very enjoyable experience. I wouldn't say it's the highest production quality from the sense of the experience and the seating or even the acoustics or anything like that necessarily, but the quality of the music itself is so high that all those other things, you don't worry about them because the music is just so good. And Barge Music is conveniently located in Dumbo. So as you're doing all these things that we're talking about, you could do some of them before or after seeing a show at Barge Music, which is exactly what we did. So that's this episode's You'll Have to Check It Out segment, Barge Music. And now back to things to do in Dumbo.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
One of the best food spots, one of the most iconic food spots, one of the most long-standing food spots in Dumbo is Grimaldi's Pizzeria. Grimaldi's Pizzeria has been serving pies for over 100 years. It is a multi-level building. It's actually kind of funky when you're in there. You could tell that the building has been around for a very long time, and there has been shifts in the foundation, and some things are kind of wonky the way that they are, and it's not the highest end pizza spot, but it just really has that pure pizza diner, pizza joint feel that you would expect and want from a New York City pizza spot.
Every pizza that we've had here has been really great. Every time we've gone, I don't think they do it by the slice. I think you have to go in and get a whole pie.
I believe it's full pies only. Yeah.
Yeah, every time we've gone, we've gotten a few whole pies between a few friends, and they're so good. Genuinely, I would travel to Brooklyn just to get Grimaldi's pizza, and we live in Manhattan. We love Manhattan. We have great pizza in Manhattan, but Grimaldi's is worth the trip to Brooklyn.
Agreed. Especially if you're going to do a day in Dumbo, I would make sure you check out Grimaldi's. And on that note, it is a popular spot. It does get really crowded. So what is often worth doing with Grimaldi's is, as you get into Dumbo, is going to Grimaldi's and checking out the line and just seeing how long the wait is. It might be 30 to 60 minutes. And if that's the case, you can put your name down. I think they will actually text you. So you can put your name down and then go walk around the park and view the water and view Manhattan from Brooklyn, and then do all the fun things that you want to do. Wait till you get the buzz and then go back and walk in and have your pizza. So that's the recommendation for Grimaldi's. And we've kind of covered this already. We've talked about it generally, but in Dumbo, there are multiple little parks in that area that are along the waterfront, but probably the biggest park within there and the most popular is Brooklyn Bridge Park, where you're going to get amazing views. You're on the water, and they have a bunch of free events.
If you go to brooklynbridgepark.org, they have a full calendar of free activities that include workout classes, live music events, movie showings, and other fun activities. They have some kid-focused activities that are more learning-centric. They have tons of different workout classes. When I was looking this morning, they have free yoga that you can go to. They have Zumba. They have dance classes. A bunch of really cool stuff that you can do in a very iconic park with amazing views.
So if you're planning a trip to New York, you're going to go to Dumbo, go on Brooklyn Bridge, park.org, and check out the calendar. And there might be something that coincides. A lot of the events are just first come, first serve, and it's open to anyone, but sometimes the workout classes, you are supposed to register beforehand, so just be sure to look before you go. And those are 5 fun things to do in Dumbo. We kind of flew through those, but those are some of the highlights of what we would do if we were going to spend an afternoon in Dumbo. Frankly, you could do every single one of the things that we just talked about on this list. You could walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, put your name down for Grimaldi's, go grab a beer at the brewery, go into Grimaldi's and get a pizza, go into Timeout Market to get a dessert, walk around Brooklyn Bridge Park. See, like that, you could put it all into one afternoon. Dumbo is an area worth going to, worth seeing the amazing views, worth exploring some of the fun things that we've talked about. If you have not already, please join our newsletter. We email once a week, no spam, no fluff, just once a week with important, fun things you want to know about exploring New York City, getting around New York City, all those good things. If you have not already, it's very important and helpful for us if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also send us an email, hello@bettertogetherhere.com, with ideas for podcast episodes, feedback, questions. We will respond to every single email that is sent to us. And other than that, we will catch you on the next episode.
This is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train. Thank you for riding with us.